So we met that night and he gave me a call and we went out on our first date, and that's the night that he explained that he was going to be entering the seminary.
She was very clear, I'm not doing this to become Catholic, but you said, rejected fully informed, so I'm at least willing to get the info.
And I got a call from my mom. I came out of Mass. I got a call from my mom that they were at the airport and they missed their flight, but they couldn't find my dad. He went to park the car, didn't show up at the gate, so they missed their flight. I found out 2 hours later that on his way from the parking lot to the terminal over the bridge, he dropped of a fatal heart attack on Holy Thursday night when he's supposed to come see me come into the church.
Increasingly felt like I could see and appreciate the beauty of the priesthood, but I couldn't touch it. It's like I was watching it from the other side of a pane of glass.
Yes.
And my spiritual director said, pay very careful attention to that observation. Asking her to serve under my mission means she's being asked to let me fail with really important stuff. That is a tough gig for the woman.
Yes.
To see what needs to happen and to watch her husband fail to do it.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Witness to Love podcast. I'm Samuel Paul Bryant, owner and founder of Witness to Love Family Counseling Services. We got started doing the Witness to Love podcast to give people the opportunity to give witness to the good things the Lord has done for them. These people include other professional therapists, priests, religious, and lay people from different trades and different backgrounds. The goal of the podcast is to inspire people to live life more abundantly, to live life more gratefully, to live life more fruitfully, to look at God as a God of abundance and love and not a God of scarcity. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you may be viewing it, and please hit the like button. God bless you, and thank you so much for supporting our mission. Are we ready to roll?
Yeah.
All right. Today on our podcast, we welcome Steve and Becky Green. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We're so excited and happy to have you here. We're looking forward to hear your witness to the good things that the Lord has done for you. Can we start off by telling us a little bit about you guys, where you're at today, what's going on in your lives?
Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for having us on. It's a
Our pleasure.
joy to be here and joining you for the podcast. So I guess where we're at, broadly speaking, is we're beginning the kids moving out on their own and starting their own adventure phase. So our oldest two are going to be in college here at the end of the month. So Michael is going back. Donovan is about to start. So the first two of the five are, to the extent that going to college counts as out of the nest,
It is a
at
little
least
bit.
temporarily out of the nest.
But just transitioning, moving towards,
Huge
we go through this phase of, we're bringing babies into the world.
Oh, yeah.
Then we go through this phase of our babies are leaving the home. And you're starting that phase.
We're starting that phase.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
we are, that's probably why I look a little disheveled. I have this constant stream of the things I'm thinking through logistically of what needs to be in place to, move them out there. And at the same time, there's the kind of emotional part of it that's just underlining
Yes.
all of it. And
Yes.
how that changes the dynamic in the home. And
Yes.
it's a unique, the way you said that about how you prepare and you're getting used to how you're bringing babies in and what that dynamic's like. And now you shift gears and
To where they're leaving.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a different
wild.
feeling.
Yeah, and they
You know what I
always
mean?
tell you, all the veteran parents would tell you when you had the kids when they were little, enjoy this time, embrace this time.
Yes.
It goes by like that, and what they're saying is true, and what their intention is to help you just sort of be
Exactly.
present to it. But in the moment, you're so frazzled, you're so lost in that world of diapers and peanut butter stains and Cheerios on the floor, and it just seems like it's far away, and it is so true though what they say. It goes by just so quickly. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
So you got 5 kids,
Yes.
age range?
So the oldest will be 20 in November. So he's 19.
Yes.
We have an 18-year-old, an almost 15-year-old, 12-year-old, and our youngest is 9, going on 35.
3 boys, 3 boys, 2. Yeah, the youngest, Kateri, did not get the memo that she's the low girl on the totem pole.
Yes.
No.
She did not sign off on that
She did
at
not.
all.
No.
Beautiful name. Love the name Kateri.
Oh yes.
That's awesome.
After Saint Kateri.
It's interesting because we have some history because our kids used to babysit your kids.
It's crazy. And now, as we speak, my daughter is babysitting some of your grandchildren.
Oh,
because
my
she has a
gosh.
regular gig on Monday mornings to babysit the Bryant kids, and it's one of her highlights. I think it's one of their highlights of the
Yes.
week, and that is such a neat connection between our
Awesome.
families. Yeah.
The real goal is to, of course, have your grandkids eventually babysitting our grandkids. We just keep this
that
loop
rolling.
going
Keep it
generation
rolling.
over.
Keep it
It's worked
rolling.
so well so far. I don't see any reason to
Yes.
Continue it. Yeah.
the tight green Bryant babysitting
Yes,
circle
yes.
continues.
That's amazing. Praise God.
Beautiful.
It's interesting. We talk about having 5 kids. We have 8 kids as though that's kind of normal.
Well, we're junior varsity. I mean, we're like.
It's like we weren't even trying.
Right. We know people who 8, 9, 10. It's funny when you have 5. That's just kind of like the run of the mill. In fact, our kids are always on us of well, when are the twins coming? When are you going to have
Wow.
more?
Our
And
kids
Yes.
totally throw shade at us for our small families.
yeah.
Oh, my
always,
gosh.
always.
When
yeah.
are we having another baby?
Yeah. Well, and then I explained sort of the age piece is kind of a factor, and I'm always reminded of the women in the Bible. Come on, Mom, there were women in the Bible
like 100. Come
way
on.
older than you.
Where's your can-do attitude? So this you'll appreciate this, Sam. Donovan are now 18-year-olds. So back when I don't remember, he was probably 12 or something. It was time for he and I to sit down and have the talk, right?
Yes.
We're gonna go through the birds and the bees, and so we cover all the basics, and he's sitting there and kind of taking it in, and of course, as the dad, you're always trying to monitor, like, how well is he picking this up? And
Yes.
Donovan's pretty outgoing, so he had some questions, and then somehow we got onto the topic. I think Donovan asked, like, are we gonna have any more kids? Are you and Mom gonna have any more kids? And so I sort of gave as God wills, but we're kind of, Mom and I are sort of getting to the age where we're in our mid 40s, and maybe it's sort of and Donovan gets this look on his
Urgency.
his eyes get all wide, and he's like, you better hurry. He's like, what are we
Oh
doing
my
sitting
gosh.
here talking about this, Dad? Come on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I couldn't wait to tell Becky that. I was like, hey, listen, Donovan said we better hurry. The window's closing, no time to waste.
I think it's beautiful how normal we take it.
Yeah.
Right, how normal it is to just kind of be open to life and let kids come as they come. And it's not the norm. It's not what our society
Right.
No.
experiences. A lot of my clients, when I tell them we have 8 kids, they look at me a little crazy, like, 8 kids, just you and one wife?
Right.
That's one of the things they say kind of regularly,
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, just me and my wife, But it's a sign of God's love, I think, that we've been blessed to be in a community that's open to life,
Yeah.
right? And the fruit that come up with it, and the trials,
Of
Yes.
course. Yeah.
right? The trials
Yes.
of
It's not sugarcoated. It's
no,
it's definitely
work,
challenging. Yes.
And I think it's beautiful work. I wouldn't change a thing about it, but it's just beautiful the way you guys talk about it. When I think about like my clients, and not all my clients are Catholic,
Sure.
and a lot of young people today, a lot of young men, they don't even want to become dads, like ever.
Right.
They have no desire for that.
Yep.
Oh, and that's an interesting phenomenon, right? So I hope your witness of having a loving, large family reaches out and touches people's hearts. Tell us a little bit about your marriage. How did you guys meet? Right? What's your story?
How's your average story, Sam?
So we met a month after I applied to seminary. So standard fare Catholic love story. Yeah. So I was a youth minister, and had gotten to thinking, nobody retires from youth ministry, so at some point I'm going to have to get a real boy job. And
Yes.
so I started thinking about, what am I good at, what am I not good at, and priesthood popped in my head. I have a cousin who's a Dominican priest. He knew he wanted to be a priest from the time he was a little kid. I'd never thought about it. So I wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do that. It just never occurred to me.
Yes.
So suddenly it's rattling around, it kind of just hung around for about a year or so. So I figured, well, I better take it seriously. So I applied to seminary. They ran me through a battery of psychological testing. And then in my case, I didn't hear anything for like 6 weeks, which kind of freaked me out because I'm like, I know I've got some
They should
issues.
at least get back to
But
me.
maybe now the Diocese
me
of
I'm
Phoenix
nuts.
has uncovered issues I didn't even know I had.
Yes.
Anyway, like a month in, I went to a movie with my cousin. A good friend of ours happens to be Jim Caviezel's first cousin. Their
Gotcha.
moms are sisters.
Yes.
So Jim Caviezel's new movie Frequency was coming out. This is way back when.
Yes.
And there's a sneak preview. So my cousin and I went in typical Steve and cousin Matt form. We were late. And so afterwards, the group of friends that had gone to see it, who I kind of knew and occasionally hung out with, but they're more my cousin's friends, they were all congregated afterwards. And
Yes.
so I saw sort of the usual suspects who I kind of knew, and then she came walking out of the bathroom behind Kristen Holford, and I was like, no, I know I have not seen that one before. I know who Kristen is. I have not seen that one before. So we struck up a conversation, and it went well, and I was on a softball team at the time.
Yes.
With a bunch of Catholic guys. We were the Fighting Amish, sponsored by St. Tim's. And
Fighting
the
Amish.
Fighting Amish. So after a Fighting Amish softball game, I was talking to the guys and kind of saying, like, I'm kind of a little dilemma here. Like, I applied to seminary. I don't know if I've been accepted or where that stands. But then, I meet this girl, and I just couldn't get her smile out of my head.
Yes.
And so one of my buddies, Kurt Maltby, the great Kurt Maltby, is like, dude, just throw your hat in the ring, man. Let the Holy Spirit sort it out. Just give her a call. So I did. I called Kristen Holford, got Becky's number from her, and permission to call her. And so
Kristen tried to give you some helpful advice.
she did. So I was, at the time I was a youth minister who had applied for seminary. So Kristen gave me the little quick background bio on Becky, that she's not Catholic. She's not really any kind of religion.
Wow.
So I was like, all right, well, this ought to be interesting. I applied to seminary, and I'm calling a girl. So we're already in uncharted waters here. Who knows? I may sink this ship in short order.
Yeah.
That explains the 6 weeks it took for them to get back to you, because right already there, that's showing some things
like,
are a
I'm
little
not sure
off.
this guy's going to be a great
Yes.
fit.
Yeah, Kristen was my friend from the University of Arizona. I was a
Gotcha.
gymnast on the gymnastics team there. She was a couple of years ahead of me, so by the time I got there, she'd been injured and was the team manager. But she had just a special warmth about her that I was immediately drawn to, so she became friends with me. And after she graduated, she and her husband, Chris, moved up to Scottsdale, and were living up here. So when I moved up for a job, she was the only person I knew in the Phoenix area. So she was trying to get me kind of, rolled into her group of friends.
Yes.
And I knew that they were Catholic. I had gone to their wedding, so I knew she was Catholic. I knew she took her faith seriously, but I had no exposure to or interest in really anything.
Any religion
No.
out. So you didn't grow up with any
Nothing.
faith
Nothing.
tradition.
No, and in fact, my experience, sadly, had been with different religious people, and I'd found that they were off-putting because there seemed to either be like a hypocrisy about them, where like they were Christian, but then there were behaviors that didn't seem to align with what I thought the Christian belief was.
Yes.
And there were a lot of things that I think there were graces from God throughout my life. Being a high-level gymnast, I'm kind of in some ways secluded from the world. We live a
Yes.
very, intense life. It's 7 hours a day of practice and around school, and I wasn't going to school the same way other students were because you're popping in and out for classes.
Exactly.
So it was just a whole different lifestyle. So I think I was sheltered in a way from some of the secular influences.
Yep.
So there was already a grounding in some philosophies that maybe I subscribed to that I would never have admitted maybe aligned with the Catholic thought, but
Yes.
that was already kind of there. on the flip side, there were other things that I was definitely informed by, which is like, I've thought to be strong, independent woman, you have to be pro-choice. So of course I was pro-choice. Never
Yes.
had to ever actually examine that belief and draw it out to its logical
It was just the norm.
conclusion. Just the norm. That's the default
Yes.
setting.
Yes.
You don't ever hear the why behind a pro-life position. I'd never heard of the March for Life, despite all those years it being the longest running, largest gathering at the Capitol annually or any of that. That's not put out in the California media by any means.
Exactly.
So that's where I was born and raised. So I don't know any of this stuff. I don't ever have to even ask those questions. So I just was kind of by default that normal pro-choice,
Kinda secular.
secularized. Yep, grew up with
Yes.
the sort of celebrities or kind of like the people you look up to. So,
Yes.
but I was a strange paradox because I had some of these other, like I actually didn't believe in premarital sex, strangely, which is, like, where did that come from? I don't know really where that came from, but that was just something. I mean, I've examined that a little bit from a psychologist's standpoint. Maybe you can. I've thought about just the perfectionism of my sport.
Yes.
That the whole all or nothing mentality that goes into it, and I think maybe that might have been a part of that, was just
Gotcha.
sort of this idea that that's all. So that's just got this one place that it belongs. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But all that to say, by the time I landed at this movie, it was Kristen inviting me out to just come to dinner and meet some other friends and then go attend this movie where Jim Caviezel, which a screening of a movie, I love movies. That's a great idea. I'd love to
Yes.
come. And so when I came out of the bathroom, he hadn't been at the dinner. And I'm like, who's this guy? Immediately. I mean, the reason I'd run into the bathroom, honestly, was to go and try to fix myself up when I saw him, because I was like, he's cute. I mean, make sure everything's in place. And I had been working all day, so everything was not in place. I was kind of a disheveled mess and had, jeans and a t-shirt. I was just, had not planned to meet my future husband that night, which is sometimes how God works it out.
God works in mysterious
Yeah.
ways.
So we met that night, and he gave me a call, and we went out on our first date, and that's the night that he explained that he was going to be entering the seminary. So
On the first date.
very first date. Yeah, why not?
I really kind of agonized over this because I thought, all right, I've applied to seminary and I've asked a girl out. There's no manual for how to navigate the situation I've created. We're kind of customizing everything here. So I thought, if I tell her on the first date, that sounds kind of presumptuous. Like, you're going to be so into me, I need to lay out my whole life plan. But then I'm like, if you don't tell her on the first date, and when do you tell her? And then she's going to be like, why
didn't you tell me this?
So I'm like, I have to tell her on the first date. I awkward, because again, I was a youth minister. I'm a recovering youth minister. So you're never an ex-youth minister, only recovering. But being a youth minister, I did it in like the stupidest, most goofy way possible. I put together Steve's Happy Fun Time First Date Quiz, which was a series of 14 questions. And we each got a copy. And the point was, look at these questions, ranging from just like, stupid, trivial questions like, what's the most embarrassing CD in your music collection, to, a little more deep, like, if you could do the last year of your life over, what would you do differently? But you get a copy, you circle the questions you're willing to talk about on this first date, and then you exchange them. And we never even needed the questions, but the whole point was question 14, which was, are you leaving at the end of summer to go to seminary and discern if you're meant to be a priest? So we had like a 3-hour first date. It was
a true story.
We've told this story in front of many groups of people over the years, and the looks I get are always ranging from, you're a horrible person, to what kind of a moron does that? And all those responses are 100% appropriate. At any rate, so we have this great date. We never even touched the quiz sheet. It went great. So I'm like, now I have to force
this
question 14.
Gotcha.
So I was like, hey, what about question 14 on your Happy Fun Time First Date quiz there, Becky? And so
I thought it was a joke. Because I thought he's
it sounds like a joke. It sounds like
he's totally playing off this whole Catholic, non-Catholic thing.
Yes.
And so this is just like to kind of, have some fun with that. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to seminary, but I am joining a convent. I mean, that's how my response was. So if you want a second date, we should, get that planned out now. And I thought,
I realized
so
I realized
funny.
this whole thing is just blowing up in my face in spectacular fact. So if you ever want to just completely torpedo a great first date,
Yeah.
I cannot recommend question 14 highly enough.
Yeah.
I promise that'll get it done.
Yes,
So, but she said yes to, and I explained. I said, listen,
I haven't even heard
I
back.
don't really know what I'm doing. I haven't heard back yet. I don't know if I've been accepted.
Yeah.
If I'm accepted, I'm going to go.
Yes.
Because I've got questions, I want answers, and I don't want to wake up when I'm 52 with 5 kids and be like, I wasn't supposed to be
Well,
here.
you still do
Gotcha.
that anyways, but you're not supposed to.
Yes, yeah, at least it
And
wasn't.
do you understand what it means to go to seminary,
Oh,
to be a Catholic
yeah.
priest or religious?
Yes, I did.
She knew that much.
Yeah, I may not have. I may have been somebody who pronounced psalm psalm at the time, but I was definitely aware that Catholic men who become priests, they're not married. And they don't get
Yes.
married, and so
Yes.
that was definitely one of those. Like, I did ask him the obvious question: what on earth compelled you to ask me out? And he gave me the line, I couldn't get your smile out of my head. And that was romantic enough for me to sort of be like, okay.
Yes.
And honestly, what I tell people is, even in that the first conversation on the phone before we went out on our first date was 2 hours of just amazing, just very easy, natural conversation.
Yes.
And then that first date was several hours of just continued conversation. Awesome. And so I already had experienced in him something that was very beautiful and unique, and I always attribute it to the fact, at the time I didn't really understand that, but that it was his faith that he was so grounded in, and that he was so convicted by, that was something that made him unique in comparison to maybe other guys that I had met before. So
that was attractive, you're saying?
that was attractive. It was attractive despite the weirdness of the quiz, despite the fact that he's going to run off to seminary. There's a lot. Yeah, you're weighing those, but like there was something very attractive about it. And I thought I could easily kind of just turn and walk away from this, but I also didn't think that would be prudent on my part, because like the fact that this is a guy who is actually even considering the priesthood, which at the time I'm thinking that's weird, that's odd, that seems like a strange way to spend your life, because I didn't understand the faith. But that also said something about him and sort of, his values and his morals and the kind of man he wanted to be. And that at least I could understand. And so while my goal was to maybe encourage him not to go and to instead date me and marry me, even at the time with having no interest in Catholicism and in fact having like some rejections of it, that strangely was also what drew me to him.
At this point in time, are you thinking, not that you're thinking vocation,
Right.
but
I
are you thinking, I want to be married, I want to have kids?
Yes.
So when did you know that, or when did that become something for you?
That's so strange, because I don't know that I ever like thought intently about it, but I never viewed my interest in men, crushes, potential dating. I never viewed any of that as like, that's just for right now. It was always like, I want to get married.
Yes.
So that was there. Again, it hadn't been fully unpacked or understood, like you said, with the word vocation and kind of that purpose in your life.
But you want to be married, and your idea at that time about children. I mean, did you think I want to have children?
I would have 2.
Okay, so that's where you were.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
I would have 2. Because people who have more than that, that's irresponsible. That's a little bit.
I remember that.
Do you know that?
I remember that whole irresponsible thing.
Yes, that just
because people use
there.
that on us.
Yeah, you don't have the money for more than that. That was also another thing. You wouldn't have financially, you can't afford more than 2. I'm the one who has to carry the children, so you see that's my body, kind of thing. So that's all in there, definitely. Yes. Again, I didn't spend a lot of my time philosophically, unpacking and examining all of that. It was just sort of, that's kind of the default setting is, I'm going to get married,
what you absorb
I'll have
from
2
your
kids.
environment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It totally absorbed from the environment.
Gotcha.
So I did not, I knew once we got to know each other, he came from a family of 5 kids, and I was like, wow.
And yourself?
2.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think, and I think he had thought, he would have at least 5. And I was like, and we will have no more than 2. And
She's
so
like, I'm not some walking uterus,
that's what
pal.
Oh
you don't,
my gosh.
you don't need a decoder ring
terrible
for
person.
Becky. Like she'll let you know what she's thinking. So we started dating, and
Okay.
it was super contentious. Like it was crazy. Says, I mean, like I'm doing the worst possible job in the world of evangelizing because I'm doing like full pressure, full throttle. We're on a time crunch here. Like you have to get this figured out and become Catholic. So I'm not like I'm totally exhibit A of how not to evangelize.
Yes, yes.
Doing it at 1,000 degrees, super
in your
intense.
defense, as a Catholic now, where it's my entire life, and when you see in your own children things that you're like, you want to change in them, or you want them to,
Yes.
behave differently about or think differently about, and that sense of urgency and desperation of like, because I love you and because I want the best for you, I need you to see all of this laid out. You need to understand it and grapple with it. So
Right.
I can see that.
You were a miserable pagan, and I had to change that as quickly as possible.
Exactly.
I just anyway. I did. My approach was just awful. But she did me the great favor of what. So one thing I would say to her, because she was pushing back on all the sexual morality and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So what I would tell her is, I was like, listen, if you're gonna reject it, just reject it fully informed. Don't reject the Catholic faith based on what like you think you
Yep.
know or you've
Yes.
heard, because a lot of that is, to use a phrase from our time, misinformation. But I'm like, it's just different than you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So learn about it, and then if you think it's a bunch of BS,
Ask
then
the wise.
kick it to the curb.
Yeah.
But that's sort of
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that was, I mean, at the time I wouldn't have admitted it to him, but that advice stuck with
Gotcha.
me big time, because I recognized that if you're going to be, well, first of all, one of the things that I could especially recognize kind of in hindsight was that truth and love go together.
Yes.
And because I loved him, even if it was imperfect and flawed and messy because of who I was, and there was still like a genuine love. Like I wanted to marry him
Yes.
and be with him. So you need to understand to the best of your ability someone and what's most valuable and important to them. And it's impossible to understand someone
you
fully.
need to
but-
understand the guy who asked you out after you applied to seminary.
you a
What's
quiz.
the
So
hard
let's
about
fill
that?
in this thing. You guys are at what age when you meet?
I was 24.
I was 26.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you're working as a youth minister.
Yeah, at
and-
St. Thomas the Apostle in Phoenix. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know
Yeah.
you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was working for the Challenger Space Learning Center out in Peoria.
Gotcha.
So there was no interest in faith, but there was interest in marriage, and I recognized that like that honesty, authentic truth, that goes hand in hand with love. So if you love someone, you want to know them as best you can,
Yes.
understand them, have truth between the two of you, have honesty between the two of you. And so I needed to understand this whole Catholic thing. And I knew that if I were to learn about any of it and it really made sense to me, then it would be worth considering. But
Yes.
if it did not make sense, I could not fake it just to get the guy. I couldn't actually buy into it and pretend to go along with it and sort of just be what the term now I understand is cafeteria Catholic. I wouldn't have been able to just be Catholic in name and then I'll just really believe and live the way, I think I
Yes,
wanted it,
yes.
what's most convenient for me.
That's actually one of the things that I saw in Becky early on that attracted me to her, but also one of the things that kind of gave me hope on the whole Catholic front was she's one of those people where she's just wired for the truth. Like
Yeah.
she's not a I want as much truth as I can have while still holding on to these couple, and it's like, no, she just wants
Yes.
the truth, whatever it costs, wherever it takes me. So for me, I was kind of like, if you're wired that way, you end up Catholic.
Yes.
Details will differ in how you get there, but
Yeah.
there's only one landing place if you just have to have
Gotcha.
The
the truth. So
Yeah.
So you kind of knew if she bought into it, she would be fully bought into it.
yep, I thought if she could really encounter the Catholic faith on its own turf from the heart and mind of the church, I thought, yeah, she'll end up there.
Yeah,
But you know, we all have free will, and there's circumstances and context, and sometimes that can distort the signal a little bit too. So, and I was definitely distorting the signal with my become Catholic. You're wrong, you pagan. Sort of. I was not helping.
For the record, he never called me a pagan. I mean, to my face.
Not to your
Jokingly,
face. Just to
your
your friends.
Just all my friends, I referred to her as, well,
My
another
pagan
fight
girlfriend.
with a pagan again. Yeah. No,
Oh my gosh.
so she actually, as a birthday present to me, so this is the summer before I went to seminary. She actually agreed to go into the RCIA program at St. Thomas the Apostle. Deacon Doug Bogart and Lonnie were helping to run it. So Father John Lankett was one of the sponsors before he was a seminarian.
Yep.
So she got like an A
There's some
team
good people that
experience.
Yes.
But she did, and she was very clear, I'm not doing this to become Catholic, but you said, reject it fully informed, so I'm at least willing to get the info. That's what I'm doing.
I'll get the info.
And I was like, that's all I ask.
I don't know if I've ever heard anything quite like that, right? I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I'm going to be informed.
Yep.
Right?
I
It
knew.
almost sounds like you say, I'm going to get informed. I'm still not going to believe.
Yeah,
So-
that's, I think.
Yeah, you can feed me everything you want. If any of it sticks, then we can talk. But I want you to understand that the initiating this process to get the information is not some sort of a guarantee. So don't count on
And
it.
Becky also has a very finely calibrated BS-ometer.
Oh,
Yes.
So it's like run your story at me.
Yeah.
If I smell anything funny, I'm gonna call that.
Yes.
You're not gonna blow anything by.
I don't
great.
handle well when I've been lied to. I do not. And that's like the kid lying to you. I didn't take the cookie, to the universal global, all women have been lied to by the feminist movement, which we can get into. But I do
Yes.
not handle that well. Once I find out that a lie has been, given to me, that someone has tried to pull the wool over my eyes,
Yeah.
you better run and hide.
Yes.
Becky,
Wow.
go boom.
I do not, and I have a hard time. It's one of the areas I struggle with, the mercy piece of forgiving anybody who's ever lied to. I don't. It's a struggle for me through my life,
Gotcha.
and I don't know what it is. But so I don't appreciate being lied to, and as a woman in general, having been lied to by the culture.
Yeah.
That's
So I got
become my mission.
accepted to seminary, and
You did.
went
sure
off.
did.
Yep, and went off to St. Meinrad in beautiful South Central Indiana, and began my seminary journey. She went into RCIA
Yep.
at St. Thomas the Apostle.
And are you dating? Would you
Well,
call
right up to when I left, yeah. Which was actually, so this is another just little glimpse behind the curtain.
Look at this response. Totally normal response you're
I
having.
hope you can zoom in on Sammy here, because he is giving the classic. Even my dad, Sammy, when I told him that I was because he knew I had applied to seminary. I told my parents. I'm from Wisconsin originally, so I told my parents. And then when I called to let them know that I was dating someone, my dad's unfiltered Dave Green response was he basically took his grown son over his knee over the phone and was like, "What the?" It was like a whiskey tango foxtrot, dude.
Yes.
What are you doing? And specifically, he's like, "Who does that to another person? Like, who puts someone in that position?" And I didn't have any answer. I'm like, "I don't know, Dad. This is what we're doing." So I don't know. So I got accepted to seminary. We had decided we're going to try to do like what was it, one email a week and one phone call a month?
I think it was once a month.
Something.
It was you had all these, you laid it out. I
It
didn't
was
like it. I was like, just don't go.
It was
Don't you understand? Don't
yeah,
go.
Becky's like, that's stupid.
That's
Just don't go to seminary. You're looking for answers. Here I am. I'm the answer to all of your dreams. So what are you
Yes.
doing? It was a disaster. The analogy I use, which just kind of occurred to me as I'm early in my seminary formation, and she's sort of trying to keep in touch, and it's just bad and it's emotional. I thought, like, I'm on this journey to I don't know where. I don't know
Yes.
how long it'll take. I don't know where I end up, and she can't be part of it.
Nope.
And so
Yes.
it's kind of like I've tied her to the bumper of the car and asked her to sprint along as best she
Exactly.
can. And I don't know if you get anything out of it. So I'm like, this is just terrible. I can't do it. So I just broke everything off. I'm like,
Did your spiritual director advisor know about?
here's one. So here's one of the funny things.
Yes.
Again, a little sneak peek for those of you who have not gone to seminary. So I show up with like this girlfriend thing in my dossier, which by the way actually caused me to get rejected by a seminary. So the Diocese of Phoenix said yes, and then they shop you to the seminaries where they send guys. So option A for me was Mount Angel in Oregon. They sent
Yes.
my file, and Mount Angel's like, nope, we're good, thanks, pass. So I actually got rerouted to St. Mind, which in a conspiracy of grace, to quote our friend Dr. Ryan Hanning, in a conspiracy of grace, it actually ended up being a real blessing that I went there. So I get to seminary thinking, I'm like this total oddball who was dating a girl before going.
Turns out that's not.
Turns
an
out
oddball
that's
thing.
actually pretty common. In fact, there's a guy there who
Wow.
broke off his engagement to go to seminary and was later one of the groomsmen in his former fiance's. There was a bunch of guys who had broken
Yes.
off relationships to go. So yeah, told my spiritual director, he wasn't fazed by it. I was probably like the 100th guy who had said that. So he's like, yeah, well, that's something you need to think through and pray and discern and work through, etc. But
So you saying there's a lot of guys there that had broken off relationships to go to seminary, but from what I'm hearing, you went to seminary and it was not broken off.
Well,
and,
we were
not at first. Yeah, not
we
at
were
first.
we were broken up, but we were gonna stay in contact, and the
Gotcha.
contact piece was
Yeah,
not working. You
yeah.
can't
Yes.
kind of stay in contact, but because there's no real, you're not really.
We'll
then.
still be friends while I'm at
Yeah.
It was a disaster.
No.
It was
So-
a disaster, yeah.
He can,
Gotcha.
So he ended the contact piece where we couldn't have contact. I obviously didn't listen because I
Yeah.
would still email him every
Becky's
now and then.
Becky's Becky. She did not acknowledge that there's no
Non-compliant.
contact, so she continued.
Yes.
Part of my.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
meanwhile, she was doing RCA.
I was doing RCA. Steve had mentioned, I met John Linkett, now Father John
Father
Linkett.
John
He
Linkett.
was a sponsor for one of the other guys in the class that I'd gotten to know and was friends. So you had kind of this group of people that were becoming friends, and I learned that then Father Linkett was going to be going on to seminary, so he was a good friend to keep close to kind of like find out what makes you guys tick, because
Yes.
this guy's in seminary. I'd eventually like him to come out of seminary. Tell me what's good.
She was trying to figure me out via John Lankett.
and so he
Yes.
would be.
He jokes around. He's like, she prepared me for priesthood.
Yep.
She was like my
feel-
How
pastor.
funny.
I feel special. Yeah. That's like an honor.
When someone's yelling at him after Sunday Mass about his homily, he's like, well, at least it's not Becky. This is kindergarten
The
compared
Chili's
to...
Yes.
after mass where she's grilling me or something when we go to lunch. But yeah, but it was, I had an amazing sponsor, Jessica Leary, who had been assigned to me because I didn't have anybody to ask to be my sponsor. You can't ask the
Yes.
guy who you're dating who's going off to seminary to be your sponsor from afar. Not going to work. So I did not have a sponsor coming in, so they assigned me one. Turned out to just be a beautiful blessing. I'm still in contact with her. And so it was like Steve used the term conspiracy of grace, and I think that was part of it. So I was meeting people who were meeting me where I was at.
Yes.
Roberta, just, these amazing human beings that are placed there for a reason in your life at that time and can understand certain parts of you at that time. And so, and all the while I'm journeying through this process and asking to really, understand it if it's true, because I knew I can't, I was worried about the pro-choice stuff. I was worried about am I going to be able to buy it? This whole priest can't be married thing, things that were important to me. And so for instance, the pro-choice thing, if you ask God to work on a part of you, genuinely, authentically asking, please, if I'm supposed to have a different way of thinking on this,
Yes.
can you make it make sense? Because I cannot just sort of kind of believe abortion should never be an option,
Yes.
and then go along with there'd be something in me. I need to really buy in.
Are you talking to God at that point?
Yes. Oh,
There's
yeah.
a God figure.
Oh
there's
yeah,
a God
I had
something.
already talked to all the time. I had already felt like I had this ongoing running thing with the creator, of
Yes.
the universe. I certainly wasn't the Christian God I understood, but I was always in, even as
You
silly
would
as
have called yourself a
agnostic. I would have said agnostic. only because I didn't really know what the term was. But
An
isn't that funny?
agnostic that has an ongoing dialogue
Yeah.
with their maker.
If he's there. Yeah, if he's there, I'm talking to him all the time. Maybe I'm talking to myself, but I'm talking, yeah.
Becky and I are all about consistency. every position makes
yeah,
a ton of sense. It's very logical.
I can remember back to like before going up on an event, competing in my gymnastics meets, and I can remember like having a like just a moment of like, if you're there, I mean, it's like I wasn't verbalizing it. It was more just kind of this back and forth. Maybe you'd say it was my conscience, perhaps. I don't know, but I didn't.
There's some part of you
There's
that
something
is
that-
communicating.
Yeah.
As a wife and mother, you're still praying, God, help me stick the landing. Help me pull off the skill.
Don't make me fall. Don't let me fall on my face.
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't really change.
No,
much,
it's exactly the
out.
metaphor applies for sure to motherhood. So, so I was going through that process, and those questions come up. So the way God worked in that one is like the things I was most worried about, the abortion issue, contraception, those are, and just womanhood in general.
Yes.
That's where he swung me from one side of the pendulum all the way to the other. Like that's the stuff that like pulled me in and got me the most passionate and the most that's the stuff I've spoken on. That's the stuff that's like I pour into my daughters. I pour into my sons sort of that foundational understanding of the dignity of human life and the marital act. Like it's just the whole meaning of the whole purpose. That's the theology of the body. I got to introduce the theology of the body. Christopher West came out during that year that I was in RCIA.
Oh, he
and
did.
Presented at St. Thomas the Apostle.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
You got to be kidding me. What this guy is saying, like this makes sense.
Yes.
And if it makes sense to me, I am all in.
Gotcha. Christopher
I'm
West.
on. Yep. So I was just that stuff was all happening there. So I had decided I'm going to receive my sacraments. Like I still didn't I wasn't fully sure about everything.
Exactly.
But some of those fundamental truths that I was most concerned about, those were the things where I was starting to have my eyes open and kind of scales are falling from my eyes on that. And
you're developing a passion about the idea of the dignity of the human person?
Yes. And I mean, I think that matured for sure when he wound up coming back and we ended up getting married. And of course, then you start having children. All of that just becomes, it's deeper, it unlocks doors to things that you didn't even know to understand. But that seed was definitely planted firmly during that time.
Gotcha.
And the people who were faithfully practicing this with joy, who were different than, like I said, others that I may have encountered who were Catholic or were Christian, but you couldn't really see anything else that gave evidence to that was different or starkly distinct from the rest of the world and the culture. So I decided, okay, I'm going to receive my sacraments. I should be baptized. This is not good. I'm walking around the planet without having been baptized, so I should definitely get that. So I decided I'm going to receive the sacraments. So Easter vigils, when Catholics, come into the church, the new crop every year. So Easter vigil that year was April 14th, Saturday, and so 2 days before is Holy Thursday. And mind you, Steve's in seminary at this time. We're not in contact. He was aware because I think we saw each other at Christmas, and I told him that I am going to go ahead and come into the church. And so my family, now interestingly, Sammy, my parents were both baptized Catholic themselves. Neither one was raised with it. My mom was not raised with it because her dad was a traveling merchant seaman, so he would be gone for long periods of time. When he would come back, he would take her and her sister to Mass. And he loved his Catholic faith, but he wasn't there present as the father figure to be able to.
Yes.
And her mother was Jewish. So, and then on my dad's side, he lost his dad when he was 12. And he was also away a lot in the military. So my father wasn't raised Catholic either. So they were both baptized. So those graces were there. When they got married, they did get married in a Catholic church, but more for the setting than the actual faith or the sacraments by any means. So they did that was the place of their, but so then we weren't raised anything. But I think that those graces generationally were there.
Yes.
To just kind of penetrate at the right time. So for myself, it was going to be April 14th. So they were totally supportive of me coming into the church. So they and my sister were scheduled to come out on Holy Thursday night. I was going to meet them at the airport after I went to a Holy Thursday Mass. And I got a call from my mom. I came out of Mass. I got a call from my mom that they were at the airport and they missed their flight, but they couldn't find my dad. He had gone to park the car after dropping my sister and my mom. This is pre 9/11, so you could go and meet someone at the gate, you know, that you were traveling with, so it was a lot more loose. So he dropped them at the gate. He went to park the car, didn't show up at the gate, so they missed their flight. And so they're on a mad, at that point, they've got security, they're looking for him. And I found out 2 hours later that on his way from the parking lot to the terminal over the bridge, he dropped of a fatal heart attack on Holy Thursday night when he's supposed to come see me come into the church. So that Saturday, instead of coming to the church, I was picking out my dad's casket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that changed everything.
Yes.
That changed everything, because at that point I'm like, okay, let me get this straight, God. You gave me a great dad who was my hero, like just my first love. I looked up to my dad so much. And then and then I meet this amazing man, and I want to get married to him. So it's just like these two great men. One you take away to go to priest school, to become a priest. And then my first love, my dad, you rip away from me on the eve of my coming into this church that is your church, supposedly. Like, that was like, you have totally pulled a fast one on me, and I am not happy with you.
Exactly.
So I was very angry, very no interest. And so I mean, his cousin was with me at the moment I found out that my dad had passed away, and we were in the parking lot of St. Thomas the Apostle where he had taken me to try to go pray.
Yes.
So in the parking lot, I mean, I'm screaming and yelling, and it's not real, none of it's real, and like people are coming from all over because they probably think this guy is attacking me or something, because I was on the ground and he's trying to, like, you know, calm me down, and I'm just screaming and crying. So people came around, and I'm, you know, cursing them away. Like there was such, I mean, the spiritual attack at that moment, the grief, all of that emotion. And so the priests are all outside praying before the Blessed Sacrament, because that's what happens on Holy Thursday night, is you have all night adoration outside. And I'm screaming, it's not real, none of this is real, it's just a candle. I mean, just, so if anyone's ever thought like, oh, those practicing Catholics, they all got no, I was very not on board with any of it that night. And so I went home, I left my job, I left everything, went home to be with my mom and my sister, and I was talking to Father John Linkett one night several weeks later.
Yes.
Who'd called to check on me, and just having the same kind of just emotional, just anger. And he stops me and he says, now, are you still going to become Catholic? Brave man to ask that in that moment.
You can totally see Father John Linkett at the time. I mean, you can totally see Father John Linkett just cutting right to the chase like that. He's like, okay, gotcha. Catholic? You're filled with rage. Hate God.
You
Church.
hate God. God doesn't exist. You hate him for not existing. Okay. And I said, and I stopped for a moment, and I'm just like seething, and yes. And he's like, why? Which is that's a fair question to ask when somebody is so just, I hate it all, blah, 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 it's not true. And I stopped and I thought for a moment, I said, because I know too much. I can't go back. Yeah. So even in all of that, because the truth had penetrated, at least to the extent of there is a Jesus Christ. Yeah. He founded a church. It's the Catholic Church. And so many of the belief systems of it made sense. Yep. Even if the God himself I am so angry with. Exactly. So angry with. I can't go back, because I already know that now.
Even if you're angry. Even if it seems unjust or he seems cruel. Like
Stinky pants God. Yeah, I think
St. Teresa of Avila said, wow, God, if this is the way you treat your friends, no wonder why you have so few.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
It's always stuck with me. It's like,
yes,
God.
It's really true.
And I think it's one of the difficulties with people who really kind of see God for who he is. Mm-hmm. They understand suffering is involved. Yeah. And God may make you suffer in ways you don't want. I have clients, I'm trying to get them to pray for like their children or surrender their children to God. They're like, no, I really don't want to do that, because God may bring about or allow suffering. You know what I mean? So it's a stepping stone in the Christian world to accept God for who he is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. He allows us to suffer. There's suffering in the world.
Yes.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
I've never heard this part of your story about your dad. I rather blown away hearing it. How did you grow after that? What developed, or may I say, what was the fruit of it?
Well, for starters, I really developed an appreciation over time. I mean, we're 24 years into this still. It still gets me emotional when I talk about it sometimes. But over the 24 years, I've grown to understand the beauty of the communion of saints, but the communion of all of us here as well. The power of I will never really fully know on this side of heaven whose prayers in what moment in my life flooded me with a grace that sent me this direction versus that direction.
Yeah.
And that can be everything as simple as just, it just missed stepping into the the street and got hit by a car. Those kind of things that you can't. But even just a moment of despair that was I was protected from by a prayer of someone I won't know until or I know the person. I just didn't know in that moment, and that experience of relationship through prayer with others in the community.
Yeah.
So I know that during that trial, unbeknownst to me, there were people on their knees praying for me.
Yeah.
That's super powerful and very humbling as life goes on and time passes to recognize,
realize
that
this
people
reality.
participated in that.
Yes.
And that I've had the great privilege to do that over the course of 24 years, and hopefully many more to come, to participate in that prayerful community for another. When you're bringing someone, kneeling before the Blessed Sacrament, and somebody's on your heart that you're just bringing them, and that person doesn't know at that moment. When you have no idea in that moment what it is that they're experiencing. I mean, you may be praying for them because you know of a great challenge or tragedy that they're experiencing. But to just be like intently focused on them and carrying part of their cross with you in that moment, to know that was what people were doing for me during that time, has become a very beautiful reminder of the community and the body of Christ.
Awesome. Yes.
So that was one thing. I don't know still. I won't know probably this life why then, why him,
Exactly.
why then, why I don't have those answers.
Yeah.
And I think that is part of that learning is like I am one who wants to have control of everything.
Yeah.
I think everybody has that to some extent, but I really want control of everything. and it produces a lot of anxiety in me.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the negatives is I was already maybe a little prone to that, and that was enhanced greatly by this tragedy in my life. So that's a constant battle that I have to fight with it daily.
Yeah. There's this part of you that, one counseling may call it a helper part, that wants to control things. It's like a protection mechanism.
Yes,
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah.
And always waiting for the next shoe to drop, I think, because of that experience.
Yes.
Always waiting for the next. If there's something good, that means there's something bad on the other side. And
Are you saying in some way, like I've been having this dialogue with God about hope. What is hope? How do we develop hope? And I have this very secure hope about heaven. I'm pretty confident about it because I know I'm pretty wretched, and if I'm going to get anywhere, it's not going to be my own effort. And I'm very confident in Jesus' efforts, so I'm good with the eternal hope. But I think we need temporal hope, right? Yeah. I need to be looking forward to something as a human being, right? And if that gets undermined by waiting for suffering, or if suffering is going to happen, I think that's something to grapple with.
Yeah.
Right? How do we fight through that to be, once again, we're called to be joyful. What is that? And I've been questioning some people. Is joy a feeling, or is it an act of the will? Is it something we choose? So anyway, just hearing what you're saying.
Those are great questions.
Things to ponder. What is joy, right? Is joy happiness? I had a client tell me last week, I have no joy. If I could just have a little bit of joy, that would make all the difference.
Yeah.
And it's probably connected to hope. To have joy without hope is tough. To have hope
how do you have
without
that?
joy is tough too.
And
It can be an idea.
Yeah.
But
And I think it's always tied to perspective and gratitude, which is,
Those all come together,
It all
right?
comes
Joy,
together.
happiness, gratitude,
Yeah.
they're all like a family in some
because
way,
when we
shape, or
get
form.
caught in like the things that aren't going, I mean, I am the first person, I'm exhibit A of that, of thinking of only the worst things, and it's all
Yes.
they're all tied together, and so there's just it's very difficult to even see any true good when it's
Yes.
so much of it is around, but you're blind to it in those moments of despair and
Yes.
hopelessness. And so if ever to see hope, I think is just to see like those little glimmers of, but I think part of the suffering of the anxiety piece and of the hopelessness is that, again, speaking only for myself, is the good that I'm able to then identify around, there's a fear of losing that good. So there's a
Yes.
fear that
Yes.
plays in of, I can see the good, I'm worried it's going to be snatched away.
Gotcha. I have learned in my own self and in my work with clients, a lot of our fear comes when we're not in the moment. Usually if we examine ourselves,
Yes.
we're not in the moment when we're afraid.
That's so true.
Right, we're in the past dreading something, in the future dreading something. And here's another one, working with couples a lot. I'm also not doing well if I'm in my partner's head.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm trying to figure out what's going on,
Yes.
I call it the devil's playground. Those are the three areas where the devil, we're in his,
yeah,
because we only have power in the moment,
That's so true.
right? And so I teach people as much as I teach myself. When I'm finding myself anxious, like one day I got on my knees early in the morning and I was praying, and I was doing my typical begging God for some help. Please help me, Lord. I'm worried about our finances, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, just simply, Sam, do you have what you need in the moment? He told me, and I was just like kind of shamefaced and kind of humbled. Yes, there's literally nothing I need in the moment. I have absolutely everything I need in the moment.
Yep.
Imagine if we can stay in that space.
And it's the sweet spot that is
It's-
so difficult to find. But when you are there, it is like,
Yes.
that's it. That's like that little bit, that little nugget of consolation to, now I see the hope, now I see the joy, now I see because you
Yes.
are there. But it is so rare. Example that I can think of recently in my own life was being an anxious person. I'm always worried about, there's the regret of the past, staying in the past, but there's the worry and concern and depression over the future and what's to come and the fear over
Yes.
that, that you can have all sorts of fun scenarios that play out. But in a moment in December, my daughter, her hair caught on fire from a spark from a candle lighting an Advent wreath. My one daughter was lighting the candle, a spark flew off, and my other daughter's very, very, very curly hair ignited with flames on this side of her head. And in that moment, which I probably have come up with scenarios in my head of somebody's head going on fire, because I've got of every possible horrible thing that could happen to my kids. So her hair is on fire, but it actually is happening. And in that moment, I just looked, the kids are screaming, and I just grabbed her and threw her head right into my chest and covered her with my Costco flannel that I had on.
Yes.
And just like smothered it out and just held her close to me, not caring about, it was just, that was the
Yes.
reaction. And I think about in that moment, that was not like a normal response for the type of anxiety I'm constantly operating at.
Yes.
Very calm, very sure, very just
Taking
do
care
it,
of the
get it
moment.
done, taking care of the moment. And so that
Yes.
your point about that present right now in this moment, I am less afraid
Yes.
of the actual thing happening in this moment. I'm just taking care of business than probably if you had given me that scenario to play out in my head. And what would you do? Your
Exactly.
daughter's
Yeah,
head's on
yeah.
fire.
not slept for a week.
Yeah.
You tossed and turned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's move back a little bit. So you're at this major turning point in your life. Your father's passed away. Your future husband is gallivanting around seminary life.
Exactly.
And
Free as
you're
the
kind of
breeze.
left alone, it sounds like.
Very much so.
Right?
That was the first real experience of me completely surrendering him, honestly.
Okay.
If I'm on, when I would look back and be honest with myself, I was hanging on, of course, to the hope that, like, well, I'm in RCIA. That's going to be enough for him now. See, I'm going to be Catholic, or most likely I'm going to be Catholic, so come on back. If if I can just get through this whole RCIA thing, and he can
Yes.
get through his time there, then maybe he'll figure it out, and like onward and upward, we're going to get married. I hope. I
Yes.
still was very worried that he wasn't going to, but like I was constantly dealing with that back and forth. But I think there was always this like little bit of hope that like, well, I want him to come back. And when I lost my dad, I was just like, take him, I'm going to live the rest of my life in sorrowful despair. Very
Yeah.
Anna Green Gables kind of like, I guess, response.
And you're feeling that in the moment.
Oh, in the
That's
moment.
where
I'm
you're at
like,
in the moment.
I had I was like, he's gone. This is my life. I'm going to be some old lady with a bunch of cats named after Star Wars characters or something. Like, that's going to be my life. And fine. That's what you want of me. Fine. So, a strange, weird, very angry, I hate you for not existing, but fine, I surrender it all. I don't care. Take the guy that you want. Have him go be a little priest with his collar. That's fine. Whatever. Like, I don't care. Like,
Yes.
that's the point. So I think that was the first time I actually genuinely was like, if that's where he's going to go, that's what he wants to do, go be happy, go do that.
Gotcha.
So, so it was a vulnerable place of just, I don't have anyone. That's what I'm thinking, as I said, learning later. No, I had a lot of support around me, prayerful support, community support. But that changes the dynamic in your immediate family when you lose someone. My mom and my sister and I all broken, very, very broken, because that masculine figure in our family of four,
Yes.
it was like a table with four legs, and the three of us now had to try to readjust to hold that table up, get into a new position kind of thing. So you don't ever really recover from that kind of traumatic experience. Sudden loss, very different than a loss that's expected in different ways. There's a different kind of trauma that's associated with that. But he did ultimately come back from seminary. Obviously,
Yes.
he's sitting right here.
Spoiler
as my
alert.
husband.
Yeah.
I did not marry the guy in seminary. He came out of seminary.
Yes.
And that piece of us trying to get restabilized, like, a lot of people, Sammy, I'm sure you talk to clients too, and married couples where they talk of their honeymoon period when they were first married, and that was great, and now we're just, we're drifting away or we're having trouble. For us, even though we're, in a busy time of life and we don't have probably the time we should make for each other and have that conversation, like the love and respect that I have for him as my husband, way more than when we first got married. The ability to work out complications and, disagreements and things like that, we're way more mature than we were when we first got back together and then got married. Like, it was actually very rough because I was very, very broken still. He was just emerged out of seminary with kind of no prospects,
So
just
in the beginning, you're saying not necessarily honeymoon phase.
Not at all.
No.
Because there's a lot
We
going
were a
on.
match made in purgatory from the beginning, just what I always say, and that is what marriage is. I think is just a purgation your whole life. It's never a match made in heaven, but there was some hellish times there because still just a lot of broken selfishness. When you get married and you still behave selfishly, in any level of your life, that has consequences.
Yes. Huge.
It just is. It's not intended to be about like I've got, I know people have like, well, I had a friend once who'd said something along the lines of, an old friend from gymnastics who I'd overheard her saying something like, well, marriage is about power. It's this power struggle. And I'm like, oh, no. No. It is not about power. It's about sacrifice and surrender. It is the exact opposite of power. You are not staking your flag, and this is my checking account, and this is my way, and it is like completely dying to yourself and becoming that new creation that's better for that other person. And that's a hard place of humility to hit.
Something we take for granted as Catholics that, adhere to what the church teaches. The church gives us, like one of the things I say to people is, we do not write our own vows. The church tells us what our vows are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't just go up there and make stuff up willy-nilly.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
We take that for granted
Yep.
because the church has an idea of what it should look like based on
That's
what
right.
God has revealed to us.
Yep.
But imagine you don't have that and you enter into marriage. You're making stuff up.
Yes, you are.
You're choosing things. Oh, well, I think this is going to work for us. Like, it's amazing to me. I just thought of it as natural when we got married. They're totally mixed. Just
Yeah.
normal. Maybe because I was poor and I didn't have anything, so I didn't think. If I had had some money, maybe I'd have been more selfish. But I was completely broke. So it's easy for me to give everything because there wasn't much
A lot to give.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I totally understand. If I'm a wealthy person, I get married. Hey, I'm gonna.
And they put prenups in and just contracts. Like it makes it
Yes.
contractual rather than covenantal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
build
you can
exit
imagine
doors
how
into it.
difficult that is, right? To make up your own stuff, and how blessed we are that we don't really have to make. We just need to follow the rules
That's
in
right.
essence, which
Follow
are very
this-
hard.
Which
That's
is
hard
for
enough.
their own good. It's why the
Exactly.
rules
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
Well, that's the beauty of the fact that there is a vow in the sacrament as well.
Absolutely.
Like that's
It's so
that's
freeing.
that's the stop loss point. I mean, as we all know, you can get in marriage, things start to go sideways, that can snowball quickly, and suddenly it
Absolutely.
feels like the whole thing's rolling downhill. Well, for Catholics, if you took that vow seriously, that's what hits the snowball and stops it. It's like there are no exit doors here.
Yep,
So
they
at
work
some
it out.
at some point, even if you're trending negative, as the kids say, and you're sprinting in opposite directions at this moment in your marriage, like there's a point where you hit the vows and you got to turn around and start
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah.
It's just not an option. There is
Yes.
no.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, might
Yep.
stink out loud right now, but
But that's where the
Exactly.
freedom
Gotta figure it
is that boundary of it is
Yeah.
never on the table. Like I've talked to my kids
Yes.
about, like, divorce is never on the table. Abortion is never on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take these things are just not on the table anymore, that is such a free place to then totally screw up and mess up and
Yes.
still have that sense of like a safe space, the freedom of knowing within this world that we've created where these are not options. There's no
Yeah.
exit door, as you
Yeah.
said. Then you're just going to have to deal. Okay, God, and then we
Gotcha.
pray
And
through
that's
it.
part of I think that's part of the wisdom of the church too. Is the church knows, like in marriage, you're going to see and be your absolute worst.
Wow. Yes. I've never heard it put quite like that.
If you got a chance to see how bad you can get, how bad your spouse can get, I mean, obviously the temptation sometimes is going to be like, I would rather not stick around for more of this. Actually, I would like to just
Yeah.
get on the first bus out of town. But again, with the vow, just like, yeah, in order to protect human beings who are broken and who are going to put their worst on display,
Yeah.
sometimes in the context of a relationship, it has to be protected with a vow so that you can survive having been your worst and having
Gotcha.
let your spouse see your worst. Yeah,
Yeah.
so praise God for that.
So by the grace of God, you survived all of that, right? Which is a lot, and you got married.
Yes, we did.
Talk a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm hoping to do a talk on parenting adult children.
I will come to it.
We are the before picture, or the how not
It's
to.
so
man.
hard to
we
do
like half jokingly say we're like every family, every marriage is a witness. It has a charism. Like our charism is making other families feel better about themselves. Our gift to you is, well, this is not going well, but at least we're not the Greens. We don't have a clue what we're doing, but thank goodness we're not. I mean,
Even despite us not knowing what we're doing, though, you got kids that are
yeah, and that's
more or less figuring some things out. They're
God.
they're just as,
So I think that for me, because I'm a pretty wretched person, I reflect on myself as having no virtue. And by the grace of God, God can take someone like me, who's so poor, and I'm not exaggerating, and do some good.
Mm-hmm.
That's a testimony to the beauty and the power of God,
Yeah.
right? Going into marriage, right, without that, I think it's profound to understand as Catholics, as Christians, God fix up our mistakes, right? So our kids, I'm very proud of my family, very blessed. But it's not because of my virtue.
yeah, right,
It's
Yeah.
because of God's grace.
right. Yes.
right? And just, we have that understand. So we understand the truth. We can't do everything. We're not going to do everything well with our kids. And we're going to fail
Yep.
numerous times.
Yep.
But we have this loving God that comes in and helps us heal, helps us forgive, which is huge. Forgiveness actually goes back to that thing you said, gratitude, joy. You said three things and you put them all together. Forgiveness is a part of it, I think.
Yeah. It was gratitude and joy and
Hope.
perspective.
Hope.
And hope. Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. I'm going to do something with that, by the way. We're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
That's wonderful. So,
Sorry, I'm pausing. Can we hear a little bit more about Steve's journey in seminary, and then like when he came
Yes,
out?
yes,
Because I feel
yes.
like that'll finish the story. I just want
It's not
as
as
I'm watching, I'm like, I want to know the rest of the
How
story.
did
it's
he
not as
get
exciting
out?
as Becky's story, but
tell us a little bit about that.
yeah,
Tell us
yeah.
a bit about your journey in seminary while you're dating. No, just kidding.
Yeah, we were not dating. Trust me, I tried to, but we were not dating in seminary. He would not allow it.
yeah, it's funny. You know Father Paul Sullivan, of course.
Yes,
so
yes.
over the years, we've been blessed to have the opportunity to go to Nazareth House and be one of the little families that have dinner with the seminarians. He likes to kind of give them a chance to see.
what a seminary dropout
we're
looks
the
like.
before picture. I suspect he puts us on display to drive them into the vocation of priesthood. But at any rate, he always has me tell kind of my vocation story. 'Cause, I was a seminarian for 2 years and then got married. And he loves the part about how my seminary journey comes to it. And he thinks it's absolutely hilarious. So I was in seminary. One of the big turning points for me was when I was in it. The whole system is so different now, far more robust, much better, more intentional. I was a seminary under Bishop O'Brien.
Yeah.
So the way it worked was you went to seminary, you did your academic year there, formation, spiritual direction, all that kind of good stuff. And then in the summer, you got sent to a parish as an intern. And that basically meant Father just figured out what to do with the seminarian he got stuck with. But you lived in the rectory, so you're like part of the daily life of the priests there. And then, the Father would assign you to work. So they assigned me to Father Rob Clements at St. Mary's in Chandler. You're smiling because you already know. So one of the things that I had a concern about, and I'm actually a very introverted guy.
Yes.
I'm a professional extrovert. Like my whole career, God has seen fit to stick me in front of people, but
Yes.
I'm an introvert. So one of my concerns was, what if the priesthood is like, you go and you say mass and you hear confession and you counsel couples or whatever, you do whatever meetings, and then you go home at night and you're like Ebenezer Scrooge. It's like this cold, dark rectory with, this pitiful little fire and your cup of cold soup and you're all alone. I was like, that is kind of spooky. So praise God, he had me assigned to Father Rob Clements,
Yes.
who quickly dispelled any notion of like the dark, lonely, cold rectory, because he is just this huge personality. There's priest friends coming over for dinner, and he's got all kinds of friends. His staff comes over to the rectory after the workday, and they sit down, and sometimes they have a glass of wine and they talk to. So I got to see the priesthood lived faithfully and joyfully, and just in this beautiful. So I got
The
to
social life.
I got to be at I got to go with Bishop Wall. Before he was Bishop Wall, he was filling in. I got to go with him to the deathbed of this 90-some-year-old lady with her family and just see the ministry of the priesthood, just doing the beautiful, powerful things it does. So when I got back to seminary for the beginning of my second year, I was meeting with my spiritual director, and he was talking about my experience at the parish. So I was sharing all that with him. It was just such a blessing. I saw just what a vibrant and joyful life it can be.
Yes.
All the beautiful ways that the ministry of the priesthood touches people in these key moments in life. And I said, but here's the thing: as the summer went on, feasting, that's a new word I just made up. You have to pay me royalties if you use it. I increasingly felt like I could see and appreciate the beauty of the priesthood, but I couldn't touch it. It's like I was watching it from the other side of a pane of glass.
Yes.
And my spiritual director said, pay very careful attention to that observation. He said, that's that's a big thing you just said.
Yeah.
Keep thinking and praying about that. I appreciate it, I see it, but I can't touch it.
Yes.
I'm separated. So anyway, then the second thing, when you came home over Christmas as a seminarian, all the seminarians met with Bishop O'Brien. Of course, he has a whole dossier on you from your formation staff at the seminary. He's got all your grades, and that part was fine. I actually loved the academics part of it. So the winter break, Christmas break, after my third semester in seminary, so midway my second year, I came back and I had my meeting with Bishop O'Brien, and we're chatting, and he's asking me questions. I'm giving him feedback. We're talking through stuff. And had I known where this was going, I would have paid much closer attention to what I was saying. But just kind of mid-conversation, he suddenly just says, okay, well, I think you've discerned, and you're done. So why don't you go get your stuff from seminary and come on back. And I was like, wait, what just happened? What? What? And so
Oh my
Father
gosh.
Paul loves this, by the way. He thinks it's absolutely. When I first told him, he's like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "He just said you're done." I'm like, "Yeah." He's and I said, "We'll call the seminary and let them know you're going to come and pack up your stuff." So I literally went from I walked into his office as a seminarian, and I walked out of his office not a seminarian.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm like, he's the bishop. Like, this is his
He tells
jam.
me.
This is his deal. And so if he said, nope, you're done, then I'm not going to like go run around and try to find some other bishop or some place. I'm
Exactly.
like, then that's the answer then. So, okay, I will go and pack up my stuff and not be a seminarian anymore.
Wow.
So that was the end. I was very blessed. So I spoke about the conspiracy of grace of having been rerouted to St. Meinrad. The way that Meinrad works, and this is not the case at a lot of the other seminaries, you actually complete a master's degree in your
Yes.
first 2 years, whether you continue to the priesthood or not. So I was able to wrap up a couple of classes by correspondence that next semester after I'd already left seminary. So I actually finished with a master's degree. So then the next piece for me was now I'm coming back and reconnecting to real life and to Becky and trying to figure all that out. And I thought, well, I have a master's degree bought and paid for by the Diocese of Phoenix. I'm not going to be a priest. I should probably give them some return on their investment. So maybe I should work for the church for a little while. So I actually was on the founding faculty of Notre Dame Prep up in North Scottsdale. I taught theology up there. That was I worked as a totally ignorant garden department associate at Home Depot while I was finishing the master's degree.
Yes.
And then I taught theology at Notre Dame. So that's what brought me back. And then, we got engaged. We got married. We launched our Match Made in Purgatory experiment and how to recalibrate a relationship that had gone through what ours had gone through. And
Yes.
that was a crazy adventure, a crazy time. Very difficult, but a lot of grace comes out of
Yeah.
that. Like you said,
Yes.
a lot of
God.
grace in that suffering as well.
Stuff that needed to be stripped, I think, in our, for at least for me, as somebody who, I look back, very selfish and very formed by the world. That takes a while to be deprogrammed, and then
Yes.
some of those
Oh, me,
tendencies and inclinations. I
Me
mean, you
too.
too.
For
I mean,
sure.
yes, but
100%,
it just
yeah.
is. It's like that. That takes a while to
Ongoing
get
process.
realigned.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So now going into marriage, so now you're Catholic, and you bought into all these wild Catholic ideas.
I did,
Right.
except for the Eucharist started to weigh on me, and I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. How's it really the body and blood? I don't get it. So I could not go up to receive while I was starting to. So I started out, received, I went to came into the church. We got married in the church. And then somewhere in there in that first year, I was still struggling with, I'll go back with the first moment I was told my dad passed away. The very first thought I had is he won't be there on my wedding day. It's the very first
Yes,
thought that
yes.
just flashed in my head is he won't be there on my wedding day. So getting married, not having him there on my wedding day, I was also doing wedding videography, so I would be attending other people's weddings where the dad is there to walk her down and have the
Yes.
father-daughter dance. I couldn't be present for that. I would have to hand the camera off to Steve to take. So I was still like not in a good place there. And so anyways, I was starting to really grapple with, okay, like I thought I got it, but I don't get it. I really am having a hard time. And I know that Catholics believe this is the
Body
real
and blood.
presence.
Yeah.
And again, I have to really get it in order to, I have to buy into it for sure to
Yes.
receive it. So I did not go up to receive for several months because I just was like, I just can't go do it. And I remember talking to somebody I know who was raised Catholic in Catholic schools, and said, you asked me something about where I was at. I don't even know how we had this conversation because it was a coworker, but asked where I was at with everything. I said, I'm really kind of struggling with, the whole Eucharist and the real presence. And he kind of looked at me and was like, what do you mean? It's a symbol. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh, just came right out with it.
Product of 16 years of
I just
Catholic
kind of looked
education
like
at the end of it.
this,
So
and
it's
I
just a
was,
symbol back
I
then.
was so, I'm like, you think I would be struggling with a symbol?
Yes, yes.
That would be easy. That would be so easy if it is. No, that's not what the church really is in the catechism. What catechism? The multiple catechism? I'm like, the catechism. Any catechism.
Yes.
Any catechism. Open it up. I don't care where it's from. The catechism is very clear. This is called the source and summit of the Catholic
Christian
faith.
yes, yes.
So, no, I wouldn't be having a trouble with the symbol. Thank you very much. I'm going to go
Exactly.
back to my discerning and trying to get this figured out and wrap my mind around it. Do not say that again.
Yes.
That was
gotta
not
be
at
so
all
well.
helpful, but thank you.
thank
I'm
you,
going to go
thank
back
you
to
for
doing
that.
what I was doing.
Just so casually too. Oh, it's a symbol.
Symbol. No, that's not
Wow.
accurate.
Wow.
So, yeah, interesting. But that is, cradle Catholic that I was
Yeah.
talking to. So, I mean, and it's an example, I think, where the church has failed through
Yeah.
certain decades. And
What was the breakthrough?
what was the breakthrough? Gosh. I was slow moving. That wasn't even like a aha moment. I think it was just revisiting it in prayer and do you remember what was the breakthrough for you on that?
No, yeah,
Gosh.
that's a good question. I don't
Yeah.
recall like a big, angels, hallelujah, trumpets kind of moment. It was, I think, more at some point you just sort of were comfortable with it again.
I was comfortable with kind of maybe the intellectual
Yes.
processing of it because it's still very hard. I think any Catholic would tell you
Yeah.
to really accept that piece. There is just this like, really? Is that how is that?
Yeah.
But I think up here it was kind of like, all right, it says it, I get it. Like that. I think it makes sense.
some of us, because I'm not the intellectual, I'm the feeler, right? So I tell people sometimes, I'm not that smart. Right? I can't convince myself that an abortion is not murder. If I was really smart, maybe I could do that.
That's right.
Right? But I'm not that smart. So for me, a baby in the womb is a baby. You can't.
That's right. Exactly.
It's so
It
true.
seems to make sense.
So the church, when I came into the church, for me it was a feeling. It was experience.
Sure.
Right? The Lord did some very special things for me, and I desired the Eucharist to be real because it meant that, because of the things I had struggled with,
Sure.
feeling unlovable, and then thinking, 2,000 years ago, the Lord created this thing so he could be with me today, not just
Yeah.
in the scripture, not just in prayer, but in my very body.
Yeah.
Amen.
That
Yeah.
was the love story for
It's
me.
powerful.
Yeah,
And
amen.
Fulton Sheen says that. He says the greatest love
Love
story
story
ever
ever
told
told.
is contained in a tiny white host.
Yes,
Something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And that is just that is very beautiful and amazing
Yeah.
to think like he allows us to just consume and bring him in that way. That's how much he loves. And
Yes.
talk about feelings. Several years later, many years later, because I was taught to receive on the hand, and
Yes.
so that was how I would receive. And some years later, as we had children kind of approaching that time where they would be coming into full communion, for several months, probably the same amount of time that I was not going up when we were first married. Maybe that's probably how God worked that out, because it was some time where I would go up and I would feel this sort of pressure on the back of my shoulder. Not like a physical pressure, like just a weight. And it would be sort of this sense of like, I need to kneel. And this was at a parish where there wasn't a lot of that happening. In fact, none of that was happening. And everybody was receiving like this. So I'd go up and I'm like, and it was like, I was like, and so we started receiving on the tongue earlier than that. I should say we started receiving on the tongue much earlier than that. But I would get this feeling like I should kneel. It's, And so for the longest time I would resist it, because I'm like, I am not going to get down on my knees in front of this entire congregation when everyone's standing. There's no one kneeling. And finally one day I had this real sense that he was saying, you did not respect what this was for so long. And you did not grapple with the gravity of what this was.
Yeah.
Get down on your knees.
Yes.
And so like the next time I went up, I just dropped. And receiving that way, that like crystallized it for me.
Something happened.
So years of that, really, because moving from hand to receiving on the tongue to the kneeling. And now I will not receive not kneeling.
Beautiful.
So
Man.
I don't know. That's how he worked on me, at least.
Yeah, the Eucharist is, I don't know how people, like I asked this one guy one time, his wife left him and he said he didn't go to church for a long time. I was like, wow, didn't you miss receiving the Eucharist? Naive me, thinking, of course everybody's. He's like, oh no, I could do without that. That's what the guy told me. I was shocked. I just kind of turned around and walked away. I didn't know how to handle it. So, you're married now. How did children change the dynamics of your marriage? Or once again, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how you guys transitioned into older kids,
Yeah.
right? And how you kind of parenting older kids.
That's so hard.
Oh my God! Yeah.
You know what they tell you when
Poorly.
So how many when you have the little kids and the moms would say to you, the ones who had older kids, they'd say, little kid problems, big kid problems. And I'm like, you see this toddler hanging off my face, right? Like I'm like trying to, nurse a child out at the park and just like little kids. Okay. I don't know what you mean. It'll be nice when they're grown and they can handle their business.
Yes.
And like, I don't have to worry about that. Okay, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your advice. Now I'm like, now I know
Exactly.
what they're talking about.
Very different.
Big kid problems are so hard, and the free will.
You as you and Tracy obviously know as well. You see, first of all, you see your own flaws in your kids. Like you see certain things that you don't like, and you're like, I know exactly where you got that from, son.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that is 100% vintage dad right there.
Yes.
That really.
Yes.
Unfortunate tendency I'm witnessing. And then, when they're little, there's certain things you realize too late after the fact. We needed to get a handle on that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it has now spun. And not even necessarily like, I mean, gosh, we live in a culture of, we all know this, again, newsflash to nobody, we live in a culture that just breaks human beings.
Oh my
Left
gosh.
and right on every level. And you see it comes out in different ways, but we live in a culture of broken young men.
Absolutely.
And all the fallout that follows on that. And broken young women, which falls out in a different way. But so not necessarily even like oh gosh, I'm worried that this kid is going to be like a shooter, someday. But just stuff. And I think in a way, and this, Becky and I have talked about this too, you've been given the gift of the sacrament of holy matrimony as Catholics. You've been given the gift of the Eucharist, and you've been given confession, and you've been given the truth and Scripture and tradition. In a weird way, like a gift you're super grateful for, but in a weird way, that's also kind of like an additional pressure. It's like if this whole thing, marriage, parent, if this doesn't go well, like, what's your excuse, buddy? And I work for the church. Like, I teach the
Yes.
faith.
We
So
have
there's
everything
almost
at our
a,
disposal.
there's almost a, if they don't all come out perfect, like, how screwed up are you? Because there's people who don't believe any of that stuff or have any of that stuff, and their kids don't fill in the blank that, that my
Yes.
kid
Yes.
just did. So there's like that. I think I've felt that struggle more. Becky and I used to, again, just kind of jokingly say, but it reflects something we did genuinely mean and do genuinely mean. We used to tell people, like, our prayer is, dear God, please protect the children you entrusted to us from the parents you entrusted them to.
Yes.
It's like,
Screw 'em
just
up. I don't wanna
help
That's the
screw 'em
biggest-
up.
help
Yeah.
this all turn out so much better than it has any business turning out,
Yeah.
given my flaws and shortcomings and failures and mistakes and sins. And so I would say, like, as we've been parenting older children, both in the kind of proximate send them on their way, and then actually, with our two oldest now, send them on their way.
Exactly.
There's been a blend for me, and Becky can speak to sort of her take on it, but for me, there's been a blend of regret for seeing deficiencies. That was my job.
Yes.
That was my job. And our oldest two are boys. So in
Yeah.
particular, sons, I'm the dad. Like, just some of the, that I dropped the ball there, or I let that get away from me, or that was a blind spot, or I did not intervene with enough intentionality when I needed to. But then also a blend of just seeing, even if it's in kind of a latent, dormant, not quite fully blossomed, like, you do see some of the things that they did take away, and sometimes
Yes.
surprisingly, because sometimes stuff that you thought, well, I was trying to teach you that, and I don't get the sense that you learned it or were interested in learning it or even heard me, but you start to see it, you're like, somehow that took.
That took.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Somehow I think he actually picked up on that. And one of the interesting things, and you know this too, is once your kids are adults and they move out into the context of being citizens of the wider world, you and they both get to witness some of the profound and fundamental differences between your kids and their peers in the culture.
Gotcha.
That to me has been, and then your prayer is, son, hold
hang
on
on
to
to
that. Don't
Yeah.
let it go. You're going to be given
So
a
many
million
opportunities.
opportunities to drop what we handed you, and,
Yeah.
and barely were able to just please God, hang on to that. That's been interesting to me. Just
Yeah.
even in just sort of like I tend to be hyper intellectualizing of everything. I'm sort of a cyborg. Becky calls me. I'm not human. I just have wires.
There are feelings, but they're deep down somewhere in there.
Yeah, don't run from your feelings. But for me, like, I live between my own ears and always have. And so I'm always quietly analyzing and overanalyzing and reanalyzing everything. So from that perspective, though, it's been actually kind of fascinating for me to watch the early trajectory of the older kids. And then we're both also seeing things in the one we've launched, the one we're launching, which is then like, okay, so let's quickly rewrite the game plan for the ones we still have. Let's start recalibrating, because there's some stuff
That's
we
why you
need
keep
to-
having kids and have lots of big families. You
That's
have
right.
that. You need that
Yes.
number to
We
try
should
to
have had
finally
at
get
least
some.
15. So by the 15th, we might be almost competent at what we're
Exactly.
attempting to do here. So
Well, and I think from my perspective, having again my oldest two are sons, this is a reality that every woman who's genuinely trying to live out her femininity in that and her womanhood in an authentic way, again, while having to deal with the constant bombardment from the culture of, I really do believe every woman has, as Teresa Benedict of the Cross stated, a little bit of Eve in every woman. And we have to make our way from Eve to Mary. So this is like a
Yes.
constant battle of trying to figure out how to not be that kind of woman that's the nag, that doesn't respect the masculinity in my own husband. So then to translate that into, this is where I'm really trying to work through it, translate that into going from mother to sons, where I'm a mother who reprimands and disciplines and gives rules and also loves and nurtures. But what does that look like as we move out of that into that Ephesians 5 role of now a genuine respect for your masculinity, how I should also be respecting my husband's masculinity, and understanding that so that we can be in right relationship as man, woman, even though you're still my little boy whose butt I wiped and whose hand I held on your first steps. And that is a very strange transition to make, and that is very unique to mothers and sons.
Yes. So am I hearing correctly? So there's wife, right? Husband, and respecting that masculinity, and then working on that as your sons get older.
Yes.
Respecting
as they're
their
entering into manhood, going from the baby, my son, my little boy, get down from there, come back, to helping uplift their masculinity. And then of course still as the mom though, seeing things where it's like that, you need to fix that, and you need to, let's get that, and they're not doing that right, it's such a, I don't know what that line is. I'm working on that. I'm trying to intentionally recognize and understand what that transition looks like.
That's
Beautiful.
been an interesting, I think, it's been an interesting revelation for me too. And this is over a period of some years, even before we kind of had the older two out of the house and on their way and semi-launched anyway. Talking about Ephesians 5, which is husbands, be submissive to your wives.
Love your
wives. Wives, be submissive to your husband. Husbands, love your wives.
Yes.
As Christ loved the church. So I got so submission, serve under the mission. So she's called to serve under my mission. My mission is Christ on the cross, to give my life for her. Like I got that thing in an academic sense. One of the things though that just being a husband and a father, and not necessarily grade A, gold standard, dead red center on either of those. I'm realizing, like, asking her to serve under my mission means she's being asked to let me fail with really important stuff.
Yes.
And like that part got me where I'm like, that is a tough gig for the woman.
Yes.
To see what needs to happen and to watch her husband fail to do it. To see what intervention is needed and then to watch him not step up.
Yes.
To see this is the direction this needs to go and then to watch him go in the wrong direction.
Yes.
And there's stuff on the line. Like, this is our marriage. These are our kids. Some of these decisions, we all know this, some of these decisions are turning point things. Like, you don't get to make that decision twice. You can try to correct it later and redirect and recalibrate. But it's like there's these pivotal moments where serving under my mission means she gets to watch a broken, sinful guy screw it up. And it's gonna cost people. It's good. People are gonna pay for that. She's gonna pay for it as the wife and the mom. Our kids are gonna pay for it. That to me is, and it's as the man too. It's humbling and it's kind of terrifying sometimes, because you think, whew, okay, you entrusted these people to me. Yes. Lord, like, what on earth were you thinking? You know me. Yeah. Really? Like, it's funny too, as is the case in most families. In our orbit, in our family, we have family members and some in-laws who have really struggled with stuff. There's some addiction stuff in there. There's that's the case. But looking at that, you think, even the roughest customers in our family are still irreplaceable in their context. Maybe I've got a brother-in-law who's really struggling, and I might look at like, it would be so easy to upgrade that. He's irreplaceable to his kids.
Absolutely.
You cannot just, sorry, bud, you didn't do too hot. We're going to slide you. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. And so and I say that because that same lens points right back at me too. Yeah. I mean, countless screw ups, countless omissions, and look back and, what was I thinking? Why didn't I? Should have had, Yeah. But I'm nonetheless irreplaceable. I'm dad.
You're yeah.
I'm husband.
Yeah.
So I would love to say that realization totally turned the Titanic. Like, I recognize that on Wednesday, Sammy, and Thursday I was a different man.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
No, that's but it becomes kind of like a working paradigm in the background
Gotcha.
That's
of
right.
like, man, that's
Gotcha.
a big thing I've been entrusted with.
Yeah. Something I looked at, because we're doing some talks on Ephesians. The first line, I believe, is be submissive to one another.
Right.
Then it goes in.
That's right.
Out of reverence for Christ, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Be submissive. So, and of course, that's the dynamic,
That's right.
right? Even how you were describing her having to watch you fail. I've never kind of heard it put that way, but it's profound. And to allow that to happen, I mean, because you're irreplaceable. I work with so many of us. Well, my partner's not doing their job. I need to do my job and their job.
That's right.
And that creates big problems. Because you're basically saying you're replaceable. If you don't do it right, I'm going to step in and do your job, which can't be done. You can't replace father with mother.
That's right.
You can't.
It's not.
It's not possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Contrary to what our culture
So
says.
that's a really profound. I really love the way you put it. She has to be submissive enough to watch me fail. Right? That, I mean, you just sit with that for a little while.
I was chatting with some ladies the other day. Two of them, in fact, we were coming in to go to confession, they were coming out of mass, and they're two ladies that aren't part of like my close circle, so I don't see them often. I don't, but I would say, oh, they're acquaintances or they're friends. But we just got to chatting, and we were all talking about that unique struggle of having sons and having your husband, and to be like, you need to go talk to your sons. You need to tell them this. You need to tell them. You need to go do this. You need to go this. And we do a lot of this to the. You need to go and do this. You're not going to. Okay, listen. You need to. Do, and you start talking to your kids, their sons, this way. You need to go talk to dad. You need to go talk to dad. You need to go talk to dad. Listen, I'm going to come and talk to you about like what they're doing. And there's this constant like as a woman, and it was funny because we all three, totally different families, totally different men as our husbands, different kids lined up, different order, but we were having this conversation of that same reality of like, I want you to go. Can you go do this? Can you do? I need you to go do this. I need you to go do. Listen, I will just do it. It's just so hard to step back because we have this and sometimes women are better at a task, but not at the personhood of that masculinity that actually needs to do the task.
Yeah.
So it's not about just the act of they need to have this conversation. It actually does have to be you have to have that conversation. But as the woman, I'm like wanting so badly for that to happen. So there's just this sense of, I think, in our femininity, there's a little bit of that feminine genius that's prodding. But where do you back off from the prodding to be under that mission to just allow?
When it's
how do you kind of turn from mom to more cheerleader?
Yes, cheerleader, exactly.
Right,
and coach, cheerleader, yes, and just
right. So the mom is giving instruction, nurturing, doing all that stuff. But let's just take your sons, as they get older. Like so, for me, I was a frail kid. Then I was the last of my mom's 13 kids. She doted on me. And she would kind of treat me like, oh, honey, are you okay? You can stay home from school if you want. And as a kid, I was like, yeah, okay. I kind of took on the weakness. Oh, I'll just stay at home. Right? Or I tell my mom, wake up in the morning, oh, Mom, I got a tummy ache. Oh, honey, go back to bed. Right? She would come watch me at my athletic events, not necessarily because she wanted to watch me. She just wanted to see if I was okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, like if I get sick, and my wife comes up to me and says, oh, honey, can I do something for you? Something in me goes a little berserk. It's like, don't come near me with that because it makes me feel weak as a man. So we got to be considerate on the feminine side. How do you support your son's masculinity?
Yeah, that's right.
To where he feels strong, not like he needs to be nurtured or mothered.
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
there's the transition. And once again, I think this is a big topic because a lot of people I work with struggle
Yes.
with this transition.
Yeah.
Well, and not just, but also, like, I mean, I can't say man up to them. When I want to say man up to them, I want to say it, man up, you need to man up. But
Oh,
they
yeah.
actually have to hear that from him.
Yes. For him
But
to
in
say
a
man
loving
up
coach
looks
way. Yeah.
different. Like
Yeah,
as a
it's-
father and a coach, I can be as hard. Anyway, I
But
can
it
be a
is so-
hard man
Because there'll be
in
things
those
I
positions.
see. Yeah, there'll be things
Yes.
I see where I'm like, that's not manly. That's not like you are not being the man. And I want to uplift you, but you're
Yeah.
there is a failure in masculinity. There's a crisis of masculinity in sort of this. I think just collectively that
Oh, yeah.
men, even if they desire deep down, they're kind of just slacking into that complacent. And then we as women haven't helped with that
Yes.
because we are willing to just it's a chicken and the egg. If
Yes.
it's not going to get done and led, and we're going to do it, we'll just step in and do it because you're not doing it.
So good.
And then you're gonna, but you won't do it because we keep stepping in to do it. So it's
So
like,
I had this friend, he told me this really neat story that kind of summarizes this. He was dating this girl, and every time he would drive her somewhere, she would tell him, turn here, do this, do that, take that parking space. He said it got to a point where he'd get in the car, and his brain would shut off.
because yes, it's not even being trained to.
N-
Yeah.
So this is the way I describe it. If men aren't laying down their lives for something other than themselves, they're totally focused on their own appetites.
Yes. That's
Right?
right.
And if you're going to do everything for them, they're good with that. Right? We're good.
And
Oh,
it's
you're gonna
actually
do
so
this?
unattractive to women.
It is. Well, it's not manly,
Yeah.
right? That's why in the scripture, the Ephesians, why lay down your lives? Why is that the man's job in particular? Right? Because in a unique way, we're called to be sacrificed. We're called to be the heroic, to rescue the damsel in distress. We're called to be laying down our lives, right? And once again, I've noticed when we're not doing it, we're just, what are our appetites? What do I want? I'm just
Yep.
taking care of my
That's right.
appetites.
That's right.
Yeah.
I visualize it like a man whose eyes are turned inward. It's gross, right? It's
That's so.
Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly it.
Yep.
but that's it.
Yeah.
I'm just scanning my own environment, me, for what I want, and what takes care of me.
One of the really neat things about being a seminarian is former seminarian is you occasionally get to go to confession to guys you were in seminary with. So they have like
Yes.
this special insider track on you. But one of my I have lots of profound experiences in confession over the years, but one of them was going to confession to Padre Carlos Gomez, who I was in seminary with.
Yes.
And confessing my sins, all failures as man, husband, father. And he said, Steve, you have to remember that God arranged it so that he said Satan wants your wife and kids, but God arranged it so he has to go through you to get them.
Wow.
And what Satan wants is for you to be on the sideline, sin and selfishness, so he doesn't have to go through. You're no threat to him. He
Exactly.
can just go right after your wife and kids.
Wow.
They're the ones he wants. You're just in his way. And like that really, and again, I'd love to say totally turned but that stuck with me ever since. I come
Yes.
back to that over and over again. What Satan really wants is my wife and kids.
Yes.
God just put me in his way. So I have to be in his way. And I
Exactly.
can't be in his way if I'm just this, like you just described it, this self-indulgent, selfish, immature guy who just lives for himself, isn't
Yeah.
willing to sacrifice, isn't willing to suffer. We're meant to be a seawall. We're
Yes.
supposed to be out there taking the wind and the waves and the violence and the storm so that behind us is that safe, calm harbor of home where the wife and the kids can flourish. And that's just a vision. I think it's a vision of manhood that's appealing
I think
to
so.
men if it's pitched to them, but we live in
Yeah.
a culture that
I
doesn't
love the
pitch
way
that
you're
vision.
describing it right now.
Our culture. So our good friend Mike Phelan,
Yes.
he used to, Becky and I presented marriage days with he and Sharon and Father Lankett for years. He used to say the cultural view of the American male is that it's this sad, pathetic little slide from Game Boy to Playboy to Lazy Boy.
Wow.
Like that's the life cycle of the American male. just video games and distraction and mindless, shallow nothing, and then lust and self-indulgence sexually, and then the remote control in your man cave by yourself. And oh, by the way, you can bring Game Boy and Playboy with you to the Lazy Boy feed. You have to give that stuff up.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the way our culture sees men. And so that's the way a lot of young men see themselves. That's where they get their identity. The whole virtual reality video game thing for boys, where it's like, in real life, I'm a kid that gets picked on, or I don't feel like I have any friends, or I don't have a sense of a mission, or I don't have a dad or any men in my life to help me understand so I can go into this virtual world and I can be this towering monster of a conquering hero, and I can master these weapons and spells, or, I can be the pilot of this fighter plane, and I can have a mission and be heroic, and I can conquer the bad guys. And then I've got all these online friends who game with me, and like, I can totally get. I'm in my early 50s, so I missed the window.
Yeah.
Although there's guys my age who totally do that stuff, play that stuff all the time. I just, by the grace of God, I missed it, and I don't really get the appeal. But looking at it even from the outside, as a man, as a husband, father, as a dad, I get it. I get it. You can get a virtual mission. You can be a virtual hero. And if you don't believe that's possible in the real world, I can totally see how young men just get sucked into that. And then they're living a virtual life. And they're missing, they all have a vocation.
Absolutely.
They all have a call out in the real world, but yeah.
So we've talked about how you guys came together, right? It's a significant part of your story, this drama around seminary.
Drama and trauma.
Right. That's a pretty interesting story. My wife and I have an interesting story where we were dating, and I'm just going to tell the short version. And we broke up, and I thought, I was 27. She was 22. I was like, I'm done, right? What has the Lord got going for me? So I had started communicating with the diocesan vocation director, and the Legionaries of Christ were around. I don't know if you remember the Hopkins brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I had met with them, and I started pursuing religious life, like investigating it. At the same time, me and Tracy had broken up, but we had started seeing each other, not dating. We're friends, even though she invited me over for family functions and doing this. Oh, yeah, that's my friend. 6'4", 275-pound bouncer from the Improv. Right? Yeah, we're just chilling together. So anyway, I was on this track of doing both these things. I was walking out of my apartment to work one day, and the Lord says, "Sam, you got to choose. You gonna pursue religious life, or you gonna pursue this girl? What are you gonna do?" And I was kind of like, I don't know what to do, Lord. I said, you know what, Lord? This is what I'm going to do. This is Sammy Bryan's plan. I'm going to ask her to marry me. If she says yes on the spot, I'll take that as your will that we're to get married. So I invited her over to my apartment the next day. I said, hey, honey, if I wasn't going to pursue the priesthood, would you want to get married? She sat there. I remember her. She kind of rolled her head back like this. And then she looked at me and says, yes, I want to get married. So we didn't have all the drama, the years of me going to seminary.
Nice.
Sammy, thanks for making me look even worse. That's just totally, just efficient. You saved yourselves a year and a half of heartache. And,
oh, my gosh.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Nicely done.
So kind of wrapping up, it's been a beautiful conversation. Maybe one day we'll have a conversation again, which I would totally love.
Oh, I would love it. Yep, for sure.
Anything you'd want to wrap up with? Like, are you guys doing any ministries right now that you want to give a shout out to?
Oh, gosh. Well, we've done the God's Plan for Joyful Marriage many, many years, but we haven't done it in like a year, I guess, just because the scheduling does not really work for that much anymore. But I guess the biggest ministry more is just the Holy Family Institute.
A couple, So we've been involved in a bunch of different apostolates over the years. We present for the John Paul II Foundation out of Houston at their marriage conferences, so that's kind of around the country a little bit. We've done the Catholic Conversation podcast through the Diocese of Phoenix for 11 years. It's just an audio podcast, but we've been doing that for, I think we're pushing 600 episodes, which is crazy to think about.
What?
Yeah, it's weekly. So if you
Yes.
just look up the Catholic Conversation with the Cradle and the Convert, we just interview a guest. It's 1 hour, one
Gotcha.
guest, one topic, 1 hour.
Awesome.
So that's still rolling. And then Holy Family Institute is what I started after my time at the diocese. I was director of Keno Catechetical Institute at the diocese. Holy Family Institute is basically a freestanding faith formation institute. You can find it at holyfamilyinstitute.com. And then we just launched a new YouTube podcast, long form, kind of like this.
Yes.
Reasonably Rational. And that's
Nice.
reasonablyrational.com. So holyfamilyinstitute.com,
Praise God.
reasonablyrational.com. And
I'd say my one thing to just leave with is pray for the graces of the sacrament. That's
Yes.
what we try to remember ourselves and try to share with others when we remember to
Yes,
share
yes.
that. Is that sometimes it's hard to know exactly what you're praying for your spouse or for your children.
Yes.
We have so many things that are on our hearts about individual specific things, but just the overall graces from the sacrament
sacraments,
of the
yeah.
marriage itself to be poured out and to create that protection
Yes.
over each individual member of that family under that sacrament, and then also just those sacramental graces to help in the vocation to become the person I am meant to be for him.
Yeah.
To just strive to be more of the wife and more of the mother that I'm called to be. And then maybe that will actually play out and things will go better with them.
Yes.
Maybe two quick things. And we can talk more about this next time. But
Yes.
one game changer for me, especially, I think Becky would say the same thing. We did several years back the total consecration to Jesus
Praise
through
God.
Mary.
Yes.
Golly, that flipped the script.
Yes.
Wow.
That changed so many things. Like I said, another conversation for another time.
Yes.
But I would just encourage people to consider that total consecration
Absolutely.
to Jesus through Mary, game changer for us. And then something that Becky has always been very appreciative of, my mom and my grandma,
Yes.
for our whole lives, prayed for their kids and grandkids' future spouses. No idea who they were, where they were.
Yes.
So like I'm growing up in Wisconsin, meanwhile my wife to be is a gymnast in Southern California.
Yes.
But there's these two ladies in Wisconsin praying for her before they had any idea who she was. And in that whole conspiracy of grace thing, and you hear this story, it's like that. So that's something we've taken on too.
Praise
Is we're
God.
praying for our kids' vocations, for their future
Yeah.
spouses or whatever they're called to. And
Daily.
we just, who knows what that
Yeah.
changes, but it has
Yeah.
an effect. So
That was a major part of my conversion is the communion of saints.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Growing up the way I did, most African Americans don't know their lineage. It only goes back so far. My wife could tell, oh, I'm Italian, we grew up here, we did that. Most African Americans, if they didn't do significant research, we don't know. So for me, it was a big deal to take on the church's ancestry as my own ancestry. Right? And I just
I
took
love
it on,
that.
just took on the whole deal. So the idea of the communion of saints was really important because I felt like my ancestors were watching me. Right? If I do something stupid, it's like, oh my gosh, ancestors are watching me. So I think that falls in line with what you're saying. It is. I mean, there's people praying for us we don't even know.
that's right.
Yes.
I even felt like coming into the Catholic faith, maybe it was a moment. I don't know if anybody in my natural lineage was Catholic. I mean, none of my siblings were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? None of my family was Catholic.
Yeah.
So I could be the first Catholic person in my
In your line.
ancestral lineage going back to who knows when, So all those things I think are very important to consider, the mystery of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
body of Christ
Yes.
and how we're in this
Yes.
beautiful family and we're working together for each other. Right?
Amen.
Praise God. Steve and Becky, praise God for you. Praise God for your family. And may God bless your children as they move forward.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Yours
Awesome.
as
Thank
well.
you so much.
God bless.
God bless.